What's up, everyone? This is episode 5 of the Happy Accidents podcast with Thunderthief, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite songs on the album called BLURRY. I know I say that these are my favorite songs basically on every one of these, and it's because they are. Because, like, in writing this record, like, I didn't just write these 10 songs, I wrote like 25, and 15 of them sucked and couldn't make it on. And so these are all my favorite. The synthesis of this track started with me just messing around on my Ableton Push. I had just gotten it like a month or two earlier, and I was obsessed with the keyboard, and it's by far my favorite instrument to play as far as like a keyboard style thing goes. And as a bass player, like, I always think in melodic and monophonic forms, so it's always like single note, kind of catchy melody type of stuff, and I essentially wanted to build a chord progression just one note at a time. So with those intro chords, like, I just played one note in each of the chords at a time, made like a bass line, and then did another bass line and another bass line and another bass line, and that's essentially what created the piano. And once I started that and had that kind of dialed in, I just started putting like a typical just backbeat behind it to start jamming out on some ideas with. And at the time, my buddy Dave was there, and we just plugged in his guitar and basically just let him rip on as many guitar riffs as he could think of. He just thought of riff after riff after riff. And then, like, I came in and thought of a few more and just added like as many guitar ideas as we could think of. And then after I got that A and the B section sort of worked out and was jamming on some guitar ideas, Jazz came over and I showed it to him, and he was just like, just dialed in. He had so many ideas just right out of the gate. It was so awesome to watch his creative process like just sort of take hold and just let him go for a couple hours. Like, that's one of the coolest things about writing with other producers, is like, I don't always have to be steering and recording. Sometimes I'm just sitting back and like listening to what they're doing and feeling it, and like we're just in sync in that way. And pretty early on, Jazz stumbled across this like chain sample, and we put it at the beginning, and it just gave it this like this pirate feel. And he from then on, like, that attitude of the track just permeated throughout it, and started to just feel looser and like sort of like a rebel in a way. And at the end, he came up with that like hip-hop trap sort of ending, because it's just so epic. Like, we had written so many cool parts, and he was just on a roll and was like, hold on, all right, I want to mute this and put this in my headphones real quick and make something. I just want to show you when it's done, so give me a minute. And I was pumped, because usually, you know, you just kind of let the speakers, leave them turned on and just like listen to everything and just kind of live within it. But he wanted to like form this idea before he showed me, and it was so cool. And when I first heard it, I loved it immediately. And I also hated myself for loving it immediately, because like sometimes it's like, oh God, it went exactly where I thought it would go, but also like, where I wanted it to go. And it was a pretty cool moment because it was one of those things where he had worked on it and really like believed in it. And I really loved it, but also didn't like that. I was like, oh, it's a trap thing, like trap ending. I do that a lot in some sort of way or another, but I did not regret it at all the second I heard it for a second time. So for a little while, this song just sat as this instrumental with the bit of guitar and the full ending and whatnot. And then I had that song ready for when my buddy Jeff, that one day where he wrote guitar parts for like 5 different tracks of mine. And he just went nuts. Like he had so many, his effects board provided so many sweet textures, and I just loved playing with it. And then he just went all sorts of crazy on the ending, like coming up with all these different parts. And it was so cool to watch him play this because it was in the harder rock vein sometimes that he's used to playing. And he's just such a great guitar player that like he can attack every genre, and it just sounds great. And Jeff is the guitar player for this band called My Body Sings Electric. And their singer and that whole band, like I've been friends with those guys. Like we came up together, like in the Denver music scene since like the mid 2000s. Like we've been in a bunch of different bands. They've mainly been in that one and I've been all over the place. But I finally got to work on a song with their lead singer, Brandon. And I've loved Brandon's voice since like the second I heard it on their first track. Like he just had one of those voices that you can't teach. It's something that's felt. And as he's gotten older, his voice has just gotten cooler. And it's really rare to get to have such a naturally wonderful voice. And especially as a dude, like you really got to lean into a couple different directions on occasion. And he can just fit and do this attitude with his voice that is unmatched.
I wanted you close, but you're pushing me lately. I thought I knew you, but you have been changing. It feels like a joke, I've been losing control. Proximity taking my soul. Do you think I'm crazy?
And it took Brandon and I like a month or two of getting together and writing and recording at his place downtown. And it was usually late at night, and at the My Body Sings Electric rehearsal space, like you always got to have beer and White Claw and like just everything to stay loose. And so as always, you bring some drinks and you just start to think. And we just had such a great time kind of just talking about our lives and catching up about just what was going on. And at the time I was like pretty up and down on a bunch of love life shit, and creative pursuits were pretty, I don't know, sometimes it just like feels lackluster. Like I've been at this for such a long time and I feel like I'm just finally starting to find my voice after like 15 years. But as I keep listening to different artists and different comedians and painters and whatever, it's like, this is about the time where you start to like be worth a damn. So I guess I'm right on track. And this song was pretty much about all of that. Like it embodies obviously the story of almost like an ex that you can't quite give up on. And it's someone that you love and you have loved, but also has caused you a lot of pain. And whenever your mind is racing, in the center of it is this. And that's a lot of what the lyrics are about, is just that embodiment in those situations. This is my favorite song on the record that was a 5-piece band, so I hope that you enjoy Blurry.
You close, but you're pushing me lately. I thought I knew you, but you've been changing. It feels like a joke, I've been losing control. Proximity taking my soul. Do you think I'm crazy? Losing the vision, honestly I have been sipping. Feeling like something is missing. Replayed in my mind all day, awake but I'm not okay. Why I'm so afraid. The way you reply got the focus divided. The words still escaping the moment. And I'm trying my best to ignore context when you text at 2 in the morning. You close, but you're pushing me.